Hey everyone, it's Dr. Hodges, and as I'm going along, I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to go get my roots done. Look at that, isn't that terrible? I mean, come on. Anyway, I digress. I literally just turned on this video. I was like, I can't even remember what I was going to talk about. Okay, so you have spoken. I am listening. And we put out a request for some topics and videos, and y'all did not disappoint. So I am going to start answering some of y'all's questions in the next series of videos. So somebody had asked me, what should we do about those pesky weight regains? Now, for some of us, a weight regain might just be, 2 to 5 pounds. For others, it might be a little bit more, 10 pounds, 15, 20, 40. But, regardless of how much weight you have regained, or if you found that you're in a plateau, busting out of that is going to be about the same. And it's going to take a little work. I know what you really want me to say is there's a pill or a shot for that. And I know that if you've watched any of my videos before, there is nothing magical about pills. There's nothing magical about a shot. There's nothing magical about surgery that I do. However, you know what is? Well, it's not magical, but you know what works? Consistency. I know, it's almost like a bad word. It's not a 4-letter word. There's a bunch of letters in consistency. But consistency is what is going to get you to your goals. I think one other thing to remember before we kind of go through this is you did not get this weight overnight, okay? It's not going to go away overnight. And so you need to give yourself some grace. That is 5 letters. So that's a wonderful 5-letter word that you can give yourself. Okay, so I want you to take one day at a time. Let's say you mess up, or maybe one day you're just either eating or working out at maintenance. You're not really in an active weight loss mode. That's okay. OMG, I think I just stepped in something. It smells terrible. Maybe it's new mulch. What I want you to know is don't beat yourself up. Whenever you're starting this weight loss journey, because you've regained a couple of pounds, or more than just a couple, if you continue to harp on the fact that you've gained some weight, or you're listening to the naysayers, or you're listening to those people at work that's like, did you get a new dress? It just looks, it's just fitting different. Don't listen to all that. This is your journey, and you need to give yourself some grace. Some days are going to be better than others, and so just take it one day at a time. So, first things first, when you are gaining weight, generally it's going to be because you are in energy excess, meaning you're either taking too much in, or you're not exercising enough, you're not working off enough, or both. And so again, there's nothing really, hang on one second, there's nothing really magical about that. So the first thing I want you to do, and I'll leave a little link to the calculator. This dog is going all around me. I want you to go to calculator.net or just Google calculator.net Mifflin St. Jour. First thing I want you to do is I want you to calculate your metabolic rate. And basically your metabolic rate, and when you're using the Mifflin St. Jour equation, it's what we use whenever we're in the ICU, when we're trying to decide how much tube feeds and TPN and energy needs for our patients that, have some horrible disease and they're laid up in the ICU. This is how we calculate how many calories they need in a day to survive. It is going to be based on your age, weight, height, and your sex. And then you put those in, you press submit, and it will spit out a number, okay? There's all this math that goes on in the background. Now, whatever that number is, that is your basal metabolic rate. That is how many calories you need to maintain. Now, remember, this is just a calculation. This does not take into account you, your individual you. So there may be some fluctuation higher or lower, but for the most part, for most people, I'm not talking about athletes like the swimmers and all that stuff. I'm talking about my run-of-the-mill folks, people that are coming to see me, people that are struggling to lose weight. If you fall into that category, then the Mifflin-St. Jeor is a wonderful equation to use to guesstimate where your metabolic rate is, okay? Now, for you to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. You're either gonna get there via calorie restriction, exercise, or a combination of the two. For me, when I do my, whenever I calculate my Mifflin-St. Jeor BMR, it's a little less than 1,100 calories. So that means I maintain at 1,100 calories a day, and not a lot. For me to lose weight, I need to be in a 500 calorie deficit. That means I have to do 600 calories. I net 600 in a day. And I'm telling you right now, I don't just eat 600 calories. I'm also telling you right now, I don't think anybody should just do 600 calories. Even for my surgery patients, whenever they just have weight loss surgery, they may be below 1,000 calories for like a month or two, maybe 3. But as they heal, they're slowly able to tolerate more. And so ultimately I tell people, don't go below 1,000. If you have a lower metabolism, you are going to have to begin to incorporate some form of exercise so that you can deepen your calorie deficit. Now, for me, I go for walks, and I found that I could burn way more calories by going for a walk. So for instance, every mile I walk, I will burn 100 calories. But you know what? What if you're like, hey doc, guess what? I'm not gonna walk. My feet hurt, my back hurts, my hips hurt. Can't do that. I want you then to go to Amazon. Most of us have an Amazon Prime account. If you do not have one, I'll send a link before. You need to get you one. You just need to cough it up. You're going to get free shipping on all that stuff that you like to buy anyway. But in addition to that, you have access to Amazon Prime videos. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from a patient is when they told me, they're like, hey, if you go on to Amazon Prime, they don't just have movies like Wicked and, all the new movies that are on right now. They also have exercise videos. They have a plethora of exercise videos. And guess what? Many of them are included with your Amazon Prime account. So if you want, like for me, I'm like good butt videos, good arm videos, ab toning exercises, walking videos, sit and be fit video. I mean, just input like armband exercises. So what you need to know is that whatever fitness level that you're at, I'm going by someplace that it might be a little noisy. 1 second. It is totally fine to be at whatever fitness level that you're at. For me, I do not routinely lift weights, but I'm going to start. So I'll be starting with like probably 1 and 2 pound weights. I have ankle weights that I think I got from Marge to help her with her flying. And they're literally 1 pound weights. Guess what? That's what I'm starting with. If you have not exercised at all, maybe doing weights or even rubber bands are not even a good idea. It might be that you just need to do the motions and the weight of your own arms, and just because you're a little deconditioned, that's enough to give you the resistance that you need. So start wherever you are. Does that make sense? That also comes down to like walking. If you can walk, maybe you can only walk half a block. Okay. Well, start walking half a block and do that. If you can only do it twice a week, do that twice a week. And then the next week, try to go 3 times a week. The next week, try to do 4. Or instead of just doing half a block, maybe do 3/4 a block. Maybe do a full block. So this is your journey. You do not have to compare yourself to other people, okay? Because when you start doing that, you might end up hurting yourself. And we don't want that, because then if you injure yourself, then you're going to be even more behind the 8 ball. So first things first, I want you to calculate your BMR. Second thing that I want you to do is then subtract that number by 500. And that is your calorie goal for the day. Now, One other thing I would like you to do is download a good food app. All the research shows that if you log your food consistently, you will keep better, you will do much better when you reach your weight loss goals, because you have a plan and you're keeping yourself accountable. It's a lot easier to fall off the wagon if you're not writing down every time you have a little Hershey's Kiss. But if you have been in the habit of writing down everything that you eat, and then there's a little snacky poo there, you're gonna be like, oh no, I have to. You may not write it, but you'll remember. I do that all the time. Oh, you'll remember. It'll be back there. And you're like, oh, it really couldn't have been that bad. It was, but it wasn't. It's like, okay, well, just know if you have too many little snacky poos, you'll probably be at maintenance for that day, not weight loss. But the key is that you're keeping yourself accountable. One other thing that all the weight loss gurus say, from what I've looked and looking at research, is you have to find a way to measure your success. So I recommend that you need to weigh yourself at least once a week. If you don't want to do it once a week, do it every 2 weeks. But you got to have some platform, because I cannot tell you how many times I've had patients come in and they're really just like, I can look at them and I can tell them that they've lost weight. And they're really down on themselves. And they're like, Dr. Hodges, I have not lost any weight at all. And I'm like, girlfriend, you've lost like 8 pounds since I saw you last. You need to be able to see these small successes, whether they're big or small. I shouldn't say small successes. You need to be able to see these successes, but you can't do it unless you know what your starting point is. And so you need to be able to log your food. You need to know where your starting point is. And then you need to know where your calories need to be so that you can lose weight. Because many times when patients are trying to lose weight, it's not the big things that they do. It's going to be all the little things. It's kind of like my daughter in cheer. It's not the big things that keep you from first or second place. It's the little things, like, are they clean? Are they pointing their toes? I need you guys to point your toes. That is what you need to do. So what does that mean? Watch out for crunchy snack foods. You're going to be able to eat a whole bunch of those. They're going to go down real easy. And this is even for my surgery patients, because crunchy foods crunch up in your mouth. They absorb in the lining of your mouth. You'll be able to eat that whole doggone bag. So watch out for crunchy snack foods. Also, don't drink your calories. There are a lot of hidden calories. So remember, you are going to be just as satisfied with a tall, sugar-free latte from Starbucks as you will with a grande or a venti. And the difference between, generally in calories, between those drinks, that is the difference between it being a weight loss day and a weight maintenance day. So what I mean is, there can be anywhere from a 300 to 500 calorie difference just in the size of the drink that you're getting from Starbucks. So be mindful about that. So watch out for your liquid calories. It is coffee drinks, fruit juices, when you're making your own juice, alcohol. There's nothing inherently wrong with alcohol, but there can be potentially a lot of calories in alcohol. And just because your alcohol is clear does not mean that there's no calories. Vodka and tequila have the same amount of calories as whiskey and bourbon, okay? And then finally, don't graze throughout the day. More often than not, if you would have just had a small meal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you would end up taking in less calories than if you end up grazing throughout the day. So, like, let's say you don't eat breakfast and now you're hungry and you're like, oh, I'm not going to go eat anything because they're going to go eat at a fattening restaurant. And then you get some peanut butter crackers, or then you get this, and then you nibble on some cheese. I mean, oftentimes, if you would have just had a lower calorie snack, or a lower calorie lunch, you'll end up taking in less calories than if you're grazing throughout the day. What I like about the different food apps is that you just need to open it up. I really like Berrytastic. I'll give you a link, and I'll tell you how you can in the description how you can link to my office, so you can see videos and things like that. What I really like about it is because it has a really wide database for food. So for instance, for me, I keep my calories at 1,000 a day. That means generally I do 300 calories at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then a 100-calorie snack. Now, do I really eat a 100-calorie snack? No. What I do is I slap that 100 calories on somewhere else throughout the day. So for instance, this morning, all I had was a cup of coffee. It was bad. I was like out the door. And but if I can drink a protein drink that's pre-made, like Premier, that's what I'll do just because I'm lazy. So at lunch, I didn't feel bad about having a chicken salad sandwich, but I only ate half of it. I know that the bread, one piece of bread, is 100 calories, and that chicken salad, I don't know, it was probably a couple hundred calories. I got it from a little independent bakery, but generally I now know that like a big plop of chicken salad, if there's not nuts and cheese and all this other stuff that's in it, if it's just like chicken salad and mayonnaise, generally that plop is going to be about 300 calories. So I know, and I had about half a plop, and I had one piece of bread because I only ate half the sandwich. So I would say roughly, to give myself the benefit of the doubt, my lunch was probably 400 calories. Okay, that's fine. Perfect, done, check. But you know how I know that? It's because I've used these food apps so I could get an idea about portion sizes and caloric content. I mean, you can look at any restaurant and see how many calories are in. Like that way you can figure out, what can I get at Chick-fil-A? What can I get at McDonald's? What can I get Mexican restaurants? So that's the other thing that I would encourage you to do, is get in the habit of seeing, the content of the food that you're eating. And once you start becoming much more mindful about your food choices, you're going to start to see a change in the scale. So you need to know your BMR. You need to stay in a calorie deficit. Whew, loud. This is a loud street. I want you to log your foods. I want you to be consistent and maybe weigh yourself at least once a week, or maybe even every 2 weeks. Now, I also encourage you to do more protein in a day. I try to aim for 60 to 80 grams of protein a day. What you need to do is, whatever your weight is right now in pounds, divide that in half. That's how many grams of protein you need to hit every day. And even if that's the only macronutrient that you try to hit, that also in and of itself is going to keep you into a calorie deficit, because if you're kind of focused on hitting that one macro goal, the others are going to kind of follow suit, because you're going to be making more mindful selections about the foods that you're eating. Now, whenever you are in a plateau period, generally what the recommendation is for 72 hours, so for 3 days, so pick Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you need to be weight neutral. So what that means is, like for me, if like I'm going for a walk right now, I'm going to go 3 miles, so I'll probably burn about 300 calories. If I was in a plateau, then for those 3 days, I'm going to keep my calories at 1,100. 11, maybe 1,200. I'm not going to exercise. I'm not going to diet. I'm going to keep them like at maintenance. And that's usually enough to stop the machinery of like a long-term starvation. Athletes do this all the time. It's whenever they have their days of rest. But you really need to do it over the course of 3 days, 72 hours. And that's why I tell people, do it on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Enjoy your weekend, but not too much. And then on Monday, hit it hard. Go back down into your deficit, either with diet, exercise, or both. And then you're going to start to see a change in your weight again. So that's kind of the key of kicking you out of plateau. For some people, let's say they're consistently not, like I'll have some patients that they're just not keeping up with their calories. Maybe they're consistently like around 800 or 900 calories. And they're like, I have been here. I am logging my food. I don't know what to do. And then I'll calculate their BMR and I'm like, wow, you've been in a really significant calorie deficit for a long period of time. We need to bump up your calories and bump up your protein. So for some people, depending on where their calorie deficit is and where their metabolic rate is, sometimes these people might need to increase their calories a little bit. And usually I'll tell them, increase your calories in the form of extra protein supplementation. That's going to be a safer way, instead of eating something that's high in fat, because that might give you too many calories. So I hope that this helped you guys. I would love to be able to tell you that there is an easy fix for shedding those excess pounds. But honestly, the key to all of this is just being consistent. You got to do it more often than not. And that's whenever you're going to start to see results. So hope that this helped.